Hello there, welcome to Awaken Your Creative Self. I am your host, Claudia Chen. Today, I have a very special guest here with us. She is a synesthetic artist, a photographer, and the author to the book Conscious Creativity. She teaches people how to become more creative by exploring the world through all of their senses. I would like to introduce to you our guest expert today, Philippa Stanton. Hi, Philippa. How are you?
Hi, Claudia. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Very good. I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome to the show. So, Philippa, I got to watch one of your videos, and that's one with you going to the Tui Centauri hotel. And I was blown away by the way or level of engagement of your senses with your surroundings. Since you're a synesthetic artist, could you share a little bit more with us about yourself and what is synesthesia?
Yes, sure. I must just say at this point, if there's a little noise in the background, it's my cat. I'm going to pick him up and just introduce. Oh no, he's gone away. He'll come back a bit later. So yes, I have synesthesia, which is basically a merging of the senses. So for sensory experiences, I generally tend to experience visual stuff at the same time. I also believe that everyone has this, contrary to stuff you will read and scientists who say it's a rare neurological condition. I think the rare bit of it is that perhaps as children it's quite strong in us, and as adults it disappears. So the rare bit is I am an adult who has retained what most of the time people lose as they grow out of childhood. And when I say visuals for the senses, people are always trying to pin me down as to what those visuals are. And I try and paint them, I try and paint a version of what's going on inside my head. But it's mostly textures, colours, shapes. They're always in motion. So often if I'm painting them, it's quite difficult to pin down. I find painting scent the hardest. I really want to paint scent, but I find it really hard because it's like trying to grab air with your brain. And I can see what colour, say my perfume, I'm wearing a perfume at the moment, and I can see what it is, but it's very difficult to explain the form of what that visual is inside my head. Because, and I think if I've talked to other synesthetes or other people who have synesthetic tendencies, and they all struggle with trying to explain what it is, because you can't say, oh, it's a triangle there, and then there's a square down there, and it's pink, and it's a bit rough. That's not what it is. It's all these things. Maybe it has got a triangle, it has got a square, maybe it is a bit textured and it is a bit pink, but it's all kind of doing that inside my head.
Wow.
Sometimes it's much clearer. So sound, on the whole, I find a clearer visual. It's sort of more in there, not intrusive, but it's sort of there in my head, in my mind's eye, I suppose. Whereas, like I say, scent is just all around doing that. So it's really difficult to pinpoint, because as soon as you look somewhere, you go, oh, it's sort of orangey up there. You go, oh, no, the orange is down there. And so yeah, and like I say, I think everyone has a version of it, but because of how I'm explaining it, I think most people just go, I don't think that's inside my head. Whereas I think there is a door that can be opened, which you go, oh my God, it is inside my head. It might not look like Philippa's version of something, but we all have abstract inside our head. So anyway, yes, I've gone off the point a bit, but that's a little bit about synesthesia and how I experience it.
That is so interesting because, of course, like I have never really experienced that myself or really paid attention. I guess it's a pain
Yeah,
of the
I think
attention.
that's probably more like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so I'm sure that it has, like, you were born with it and you have always kind of experienced this. And could you just tell us a little bit about your creative journey, like how it kind of all evolved into what you're doing right now?
Yeah, gosh, even you saying what I'm doing right now, that's a tricky one. I was talking to a friend last night, an artist, and I was showing her some paintings I'd done. And I said, I just can't, I do so many different things that I sometimes wish I could just go, I paint and that's it. But so in terms of my creative journey, I had the privilege of growing up with a mother who encouraged me actively to see the world in a slightly different way. And I think as kids, you can say weird things and have weird ideas. And my mum was always like, oh, yes, that's an idea. Or she never made me feel like I was being stupid or that any ideas I had were invalid. She just kind of encouraged that massively. So that's my basic foundation, I think. And then how old was I? I was probably about 12 and was always making things and doing things. But I then at 12 got really into the theatre. So a lot of my creativity from the age of 12 to probably in my late, towards my late 20s, was devoted to the theatre and acting. And I went to drama school, I went to RADA in London, and I worked on stage a lot. However, when I was 18 and had to make those decisions about, what do I do now I leave school? I'd always, from the age of 12, thought, right, I'll go to drama school. When I got to 18, I had the most amazing art teacher. And I was conflicted for the first time in years. I thought, well, I want to go to drama school. I want to be an actor. That's what I want to do. But I also want to do more of this art thing. I loved art history. I just loved it. Anyway, I did fleetingly go and study history of design. I sort of took a year out and thought, actually, I want to go and do history of design. I love objects and things. I love design. Anyway, I dropped out after a term and thought, no, I do want to go to drama school. And so I left my history of design degree and I went to train as an actor. So, yes, I did that for years, but all the time I painted, I sewed, I made things. I had a studio in Brixton in London. I had a stall on Spitalfields Market in London. And this was all, even when I was working in the theatre, I'd be the person with the sewing machine in my dressing room. So, yeah, that's sort of my creative path. And then after I had my son, I had stuff in my head, images, pictures, synesthesia type things that I wanted to create. And because I'd only really worked in textiles, I was doing it like that, and it was taking ages. And I thought, this is too long. I haven't got time with a 18-month-old child, two-year-old. And then I went to see a friend in a play, and he's got a beautiful voice. And I sat and watched his voice in my head. And I thought, I know how to paint that. And so that was my transition from working in textiles to painting. And painting, I could get it out quicker. So, and I could create my own colours, because that's the other thing with synesthesia. Scientists will often say, is it red or is it blue? And you go, well, it's just, how many reds are there? There are loads of reds. And how can I explain to you what sort of red it is? When I paint, I can make the red that I want it to be. And again, in textiles, it was quite difficult because you only have the fabrics or the thread. You can't mix it like you can mix a paint. So yeah, I started painting, and when my son was 2, and it sort of went from there. I painted, for a long time, and then was painting and acting and doing, both things. And then when he was about 8, I came back from Toronto. I've been working in the theatre there, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should, you like taking photographs, you should start a blog." So I started a blog in, I think, 2008. Just wanted it to be images, just pictures. And I said to my friend, I said, "Don't people do blogs that are just images?" And she was like, "Oh, sometimes." And then, of course, I followed a couple of people, and then one of these bloggers said, "Oh, there's a new app. This Instagram looks interesting." And everybody, including me, I was on Flickr. That was because that could keep you images. And writing to me isn't a very natural place for me to be. I like writing with images or abstract shapes and stuff. So yeah, then when Instagram thing, I thought, oh, this is quite fun, and I could suddenly connect to people who were miles away very quickly. Whereas with a blog, there were comments. It was all very clunky, and when I joined Instagram in early 2011, there weren't that many people doing it, and especially not in the UK. There was hardly anybody. I remember I'd kind of wait for my son to come out of Cubs or Scouts or something.
Yeah.
And it was the time when I could talk to people across the ocean. They were awake. Yeah. So, and then, Instagram basically honed my skills as my photographic skills. At the same time as well, I was kind of earning my living by doing lots of eBay, selling loads of things, just knickknacks and stuff, and taking what I thought were portraits of an object. So because on eBay you have to, provide as many photographs of one thing as possible, and I always wanted to make it look beautiful, obviously. So I was doing a lot of eBay at the same time I discovered Instagram, and I don't know, all those things kind of wove into existence. And although I haven't acted for quite a while, in my whole time of being on Instagram since 2000, I have combined acting jobs with this, but it's just that I don't show that on Instagram.
That story is so interesting. I mean, like, when I'm talking to a lot of artists, a lot of times they have a lot of different things. They have tried out different things, and then that's where they kind of evolved and try to whether they like this, they don't like this. And it's the attempt of trying to make things. Now, since you're like super creative throughout your life, what does creativity mean to you? And why do you think it's important for people to get that creative experience in their life?
So I suppose creativity to me means freedom. If you allow yourself to be creative, you're allowing your mind to flow in whatever way it just happens. And so there is a freedom, I think, in creativity, where you can express exactly who you are. You don't necessarily have to share that with anybody else. You can be creative on your own, expressing something and getting something out. Interestingly, and I'll go back to why I think it's important as well. I mean, that sort of plays into it. But when I was younger, I had epilepsy. I had a few fits, and it was quite anxiety making. As I got older, I thought, I don't want that to happen again. Now, there was a lot going on inside my head when I was a teenager. And basically, when I started painting what was inside my head, the synesthesia paintings, my mind calmed. So rather than it getting all bunged up and short-circuiting in here, I think I was able to hone my personal creativity and sort of, I suppose, utilize that for my mental health, apart from anything else. You know,
Right.
it's you if you ignore abstract or creative stuff, you're kind of missing a part of you. So why I think it's really important for people to connect to their creativity is, firstly, it gives you a freedom to explore and express yourself. And I think it's really important for us to have an awareness of who we are. Like I said just before, you don't have to share that all the time. I think social media and everything makes us feel like we have to present oh, I think this, and I've just done a load of paintings which I might sell. I haven't decided yet, but I painted them because I needed to paint. I just needed to get stuff out. I wasn't going, oh, I'm painting this and I'm going to sell it, or just wanted to get stuff out. And I think the usefulness of that is sometimes you don't know what's going to come out. And when it comes out, it's actually really helpful in some way, a bit like a dream or something.
Yeah.
You know, you go, that was a bit weird and a bit surreal. And then you say it out loud and you go, oh, I know why I dreamt that. Yes, that's because I'm thinking this and thinking that. I think creativity is sort of, has got connections to that. And that's just one thing. It's massive. Creativity is a massive thing that I don't understand why. I suppose at school it's almost a choice. You know, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? It's like, no. Even if you go into maths and science, creativity is essential for thinking outside of a box, for moving forward. Yeah, that's what it is. It's creativity just helps you move forward when you are struggling with anything, or if you're just pottering along, it's forward. And yeah, that's why it's essential, because we all need to move forward and think new things, I suppose.
I want to say that when you were mentioning how, like in the school system right now, that the students have to choose between the art or the science, and why can't they just combine it together? I feel like that is super essential, a point that we should consider, because it is true, because creativity is not just art, it's not just drama, it's the innovation of you making that connection of whatever you have seen, whatever you have experienced. And at the point that you also said, like, you really don't know what's going to come out, right? And it's only you have gone through to give it a try, that's when it's going to come out. And you really won't know until you give it a try. And I think with the school system, the one thing I really don't like about it is you're kind of boxed into something. You're either art or you're either science. And I mean, like, for me, like, as I've spoken with you before, like, I'm in the science background, and in my mind, I'm always been so feeling like I'm so analytical. I am so like, I can feel like I'm methodical. That's why when I was talking to my friend about creativity, I'm like, what's that? I don't feel like I'm that creative, right?
Yeah, but on the other hand, you know, because I was always a creative person, even at school or whatever, I think I had one maths teacher who was really sweet, really nice. The others, you know, if I kind of said, yeah, but what, they just go, no, it's simple, it's this. And I think, but okay, I'm having to get through the fact that 4 is brown, 2 is golden yellow. Why can't I talk about that? And they wrote me off as being, you know, and I felt stupid. And I just go, oh, I'm not very good at maths. And I think, had someone said, well, how do you see it? Why are you thinking in such a complex way? and took me to one side and went, oh, I think maybe you've got a different way your mind processes mathematical things.
Mm-hmm.
And if somehow I could have been pushed in a creative mathematical way, I might have really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that my brain did not, I just couldn't latch on to the method they were talking about. I needed maths to be in colour for a start.
Mm-hmm.
I needed, when I was learning the piano, I needed the musical notes to be in colour. They weren't, you know, and even reading, you know, and I love literature, but I'm a very slow reader.
Oh, hello.
I wanted the text in a book to be in colour.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggled with subjects that weren't creative, and I feel I missed out on, or I say that aren't creative. I think all subjects are creative. They're just not taught in a creatively open way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel there are elements of my education that my potential wasn't fulfilled just because I had an overactive creative side, which needed to be squashed at school in some of those subjects.
Yeah, and even you were talking about the music and the writing. I mean, it's so interesting that we are like with the musical sheet, like it's all like black notes on white paper, or like words. It's like black words on white paper.
Yeah.
And it's like there is so many things that are going on that it's a lot of different forms of creativity, and then it's your way of interpreting all these things. And like
I understand, you know, there has to be a notation that everyone go, this is the world's way of understanding music.
Mm-hmm.
It's a you know, a global language. I understand that. It's just that I wanted it to be different.
A little bit different.
And I think if you have synesthesia, the problem is, you know, I can see middle C as green, a particular type of green, whereas someone else is going to see it as red. So there's no common language for a synesthete. It's, you know, and fair enough, there is not enough time in a school for a teacher to do a one-to-one and go, I'll teach you how to do maths in the colours you want.
Yeah. And I was about to say that too, because like right now everything is very time constrained, and you have so many students to one teacher, and they just don't have enough time of the day to.
No, and I understand that.
All right, so I just want to share with everyone your book. Oh, your book.
Oh yeah, my book.
Yes. Well, I don't usually have physical copies of
my battered copy.
Yeah.
It's very falling apart.
I usually don't buy, like, as much as I love to buy a physical copy of books, like my space is just so limited, so I usually just end up getting electronic copies of the books. But I just want to share with everyone Philippa's book, The Conscious Creative, just because as I was doing my research on this topic, and that's how I got a hold of your book, it's such a well-rounded book for people like myself. Because it's like a step-by-step process. There was a lot of questions. There's a lot of exercises for us to go through, like look at this, record this, and going through all the sensory, and even talking about your relationship with time. So Philippa, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your book, and like how did this concept came about and things like that?
So the book came about. I was lucky enough to be asked to write something, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to write. You know, I'd never thought, I'd like to write a book. Like I said to you before, I like visual essays. There's a book called The Ways of Seeing by John Berger, and I discovered that when I was about 18 or something. A friend bought it for me, and there are visual essays in it, and I was like, I want to do that. There were no words, it was just pictures. So yeah, initially when I was approached, I kind of thought, oh, I just want to do pictures. But I'd sort of dared myself to run an online course, having never done an online course myself. I'd never been on one. So I just sort of did it in my own way. And I thought, well, what do I want to talk about? And I thought, well, how do I think about things? And I think, well, it's colour, it's texture, it's about overcoming obstacles, it's light and shade. It's all those elements of, I suppose they're elements of everything. And then right at the end of the book, I've got a bit on composition, which is a small amount. And when I did this online course, composition was right at the end as well, because even though the people who were on my online course I know wanted to be able to do flat lays and, you know, arrange things and style things like I did, or, you know, to have me teach. My point is, you can't do that unless you look at everything first. Because unless you look at light and shade, negative space, colour, texture, you're just copying someone else's work. Even if you go, oh, I want to put that there and I want to put that there and that looks nice, you're not really owning it within your body. And so with the book, having done the online course and had really great response from people, with the book I thought, that's what I want to do. I want people to experience life with a slightly altered perception, a slightly altered eye. So you look at things in more detail, you look at ordinary things in a different way, in a more creative light, I suppose. And then at the end of going through all that, I thought people would then go, I think I've got an idea that I want to do, which will be far more likely to be an original idea with some sort of learned skill from my book, maybe, of how to do stuff. But I think it's really important, particularly in a social media age, to have original ideas. They might be based or influenced by something, but I think it's so easy just to copy something. There's also I have to say, it's, you know, copying is a part of the process. You see art students copying masterpieces in an art gallery. There is a place for that, but that's not the goal. The goal is to feel the freedom of who you are and what you want to create, and that might be something quite obtuse. You might not even go, because lots of people who go, oh, I want to create something, they might think, oh, I'm going to knit something or paint something or you know, whereas actually if you go through in a sort of course of investigation, at the end of it you might think, oh, I just want to focus on watching rotten fruit or something, you know, something weird that you'd never thought of before. I mean, I partly say that because there was a woman on my course who really got into watching things decay, because I you know, made that. I've even got here some, so I've got some rose hips that I've been working with here. I don't know whether you can see it.
Wow.
And
nice.
Oh, I can't get the camera. And they're all wrinkly now. But I have them in a little bowl and I'm fascinated by watching them change. And this woman on my course got really into that. And so that's why I'm saying, you know, at the end of reading the book, you might go, actually, you know, there's something that I had never thought of ever before in my life that I now want to investigate more, and maybe create images with it, or maybe do, I don't know. I wanted the book to be a friend that you could, that gave you confidence to be freer. Yeah, I suppose that's what it is.
and yeah, definitely it is like one of my new best friends, just because now when I'm going out to do a walk, like got myself a little bit more aware of my surrounding, look at different colors. I'm trying to challenge myself to find the different colors. So like it's such a great book to actually open up my mind and like really listening to the surroundings, or like feeling the wind when I'm walking, or the heat of the sun. And that's super important, I think.
One of my favorite bits that I practice myself sometimes is when I've going for a walk, and you're looking at everything, whatever, and then you just go, actually, hang on, listen. What does this walk sound like? And even if you're by the side of the road, to consciously acknowledge the different sounds of cars, or and that always sounds that you kind of go, oh, I've known that sound all my life. But to spend a bit of time just listening to stuff, I really enjoy that, and I'm always sort of blown away by by sound, really. But I just have to say that, having said about loving visual essays, a big thing for me with the book was, I said to the publishers, it has to have loads of pictures, because I'll be at an art gallery shop. I love art gallery shops, and I'll see a book with a beautiful cover, really interesting title, and I open it up, it's black and white text, no pictures. I was like, there's no way I will ever read that. I said, I want my book to be in an art gallery shop and people open it up and go, ooh, that looks nice. So I was very insistent that there were a lot of images.
That's really good that you insisted on it, because I do love looking at all the pictures and how you lay things out, or even all the items. Like one of the things that I really love is like when there is a picture filled with stuff, I just like to like look at different things of what's inside, like how it's laid out. I just love that. So I just love looking at your book.
Oh, thank you.
Now tell us, for people who are following your book, and I mean, I will get into your newer workbook, which I'm super excited about. What is one thing that you really want people to like try their hands on when they're following, when they kind of like started?
I want them to, I suppose what I want people to do is do more stuff and think about it less. Do more, think less. So with this workbook, I'll show you, it's a very similar cover, but you see, I would advise that you can't do this electronically.
Yes.
So you have to take the cover off, and you have to cut this up. Oh, the cat fell off then. And so actually this becomes the cover of the book. So yeah, you cut that up and you make it's a random page finder. So you can just dip into it at any point. I've got distracted now. What were we saying? What were you asking me? What do I want people to get out of it? So yes, with this, I really want people to experiment. And when I was putting this together and I was having a meeting at the publishers, when I'd put my first lost proposal together, there was a man there who was saying, but because I asked people to stick things in the book and stuff, and he was saying, but what if they can't close the book? And I was like, great. If they can't close the book, that's okay. He was a bit kind of concerned about it, and there's a bit where I say rip part of the page out and burn it. Oh, he was very worried about that. And and there's another bit where I say rip a page out at random, and he said, but what if that's a really important page? And I was like, if it's a really important page, it will become even more important. But everybody who rips their page, that everybody will have a different important page. And so it's quite a quirky book, I suppose. And I want people to embrace the oddness of it, because we've all got oddness, you know, and I think it's silly to ignore that, because our oddness is our uniqueness. Again, it's a freedom. And you know, this guy, obviously he was very strong. I almost dedicated the book to him. It's like, the book is for you. You know, there's another bit where I say you've got to put the book in the oven. Well, no, I don't say you have to put the book in the oven. I say you have to get the book wet. Oh, he was like, it might destroy the book. And I said, if it destroys the book, that's something that's happened to that. It's a life. So I think what I want people to get from the workbook is a sort of anarchy that is enjoyable and safe, I suppose, but shows you things. I mean, even when I was working on it, you know, I discovered things when I think I mentioned to you when I spoke to you before, when pages get stuck together, you kind of think, oh, that's it, the book's gone. Whereas you can work out how to get things apart. It's about experimenting and discovering, you know, sewing a page together. And what does that sound like? You know, the sound of when a needle goes through paper is very different from when a needle goes through fabric. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so it's about doing exercises that awaken your senses, awaken your freedom and your playfulness, and then at the end of it, you know, I'm hoping people will go, oh, that was great, and have some creative ideas elsewhere. I don't know. It's a workbook.
I'll tell you one of the reasons why I'm really looking forward to this workbook. That's because of exactly what that man was telling you. That's because we are grown to really respect our books. We don't write in our books. We don't fold it. We like, books is very important, and then you just want to keep it. It's for reference, and like, it kind of structured your life into saying, okay, I have to make this into the most perfect thing. This has to be like this. This has to be kind of, that's the only way that you can get to there. And once it's complete, then that's a complete project, and you feel proud. And then when you destroy something, it really like rattles you, right? So like,
but don't you find sometimes
it does,
sometimes with writing, you know, on the computer, I think I mentioned this in the book, sometimes you'll write something, spend absolutely ages, right, and your computer crashes and you lose it, or you lose it and you go, but I spent, and so you have to write it again. And often when you write it again, it's better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your thoughts are kind of,
it's you're having to do something. So in destroying something better moves you forward. Destroying something, it makes you move forward, because you can't go back. Because it's that perfectionism that I feel like we need to get out of, just because once you destroy something, you, like, as you said, like, creativity is about freeing yourself. Once you have created something, you feel like, oh, this is something so precious, but then you're kind of tied to that. You're kind of tied to that, but then it feels like you're limited in that realm. But then, like, that's why I tell people to get this. I tell people to get this book wet in the middle of the book. Because because you've done quite a bit of work, and you'll be going, oh, I quite enjoy this. Oh, I've done a weaving thing that I really like, and then I'm going, okay, put it in the shower, or take it out into the rain, or put it in a puddle. And it's it's to take away the being precious of it. Also, I think, you know, what you were saying about how we have been conditioned to have this respect for books, which on one level, you know, completely understand. But with iPhones, with tablets, whatever, they're a really good way to explore. Mm-hmm. And, you know, even watching my son, he has a different way of exploring the internet than I do. You have a particular freedom on a tablet, and that's why kids love them, because they can do their own thing. I'm doing this because that is sort of what you do. You have your own way. I want this book to be more like that. I want you to be able to do it in any way you want. So if you want to open it up and dip into it, that's fine. But I want people to be able to have it and make it their own thing. Like when you have your iPhone or whatever, it becomes yours. It becomes your, and it's almost sensitive to how you work it. So that's, yeah, it's maybe using a book a bit more like an iPhone app or something.
Now you talked about your son is exploring in a different way. Like I'm just interested because I have a son. He's 3 years old right now. Just for the parents out there, like, oh, so cute, the cat. Just for the parents out there who have kids, and I mean, like with even without the lockdown, there are a lot of times right now that we're just stuck to our phone. Like the phone or the tablet or the TV is like the thing. Like, is there some tips that you can give to the parents, like how to go about engaging them with these sensory things?
Well, what I did, because you can't really escape the screen, you know, and also I think our children, you know, they're the future, and it's their language, and they haven't known a time without it, which is a massive difference, because, you know, I grew up with none of that. So I don't want to take away the fact that the screen and being on your tablet has a benefit. However, what I used to do personally with my son is we would have one day a week, our screen-free day. And it was a Thursday, I think. And he, you know, sometimes he'd wander around, but being conscious that he was bored. And then he'd go, oh, look, that's quite it. I'd be like, that's interesting, isn't it? There is plenty to do, but you're wandering around being bored just because this is the one day a week you're not on your phone. So you've got to go and find something to do, you know. And those Thursdays involved a lot of cardboard boxes being cut up, I seem to remember. Just, you know, just oddness. And then after a while, you know, might start building something with Lego or whatever, and and we'd forget about the phone, you know, or the computer. And so that was my way of getting a bit of time that wasn't on the phone. I also think, you know, my son's 19 now, but I think at the time we did screen-free time, it wasn't quite as manic as it is now. So, but I think the same would still apply. I think it's really good to just have a look at real life. And again, not feel like you have to share it all the time. You know, we can look at beautiful things and just know it. We don't have to tell everybody.
And I think that's really important. And I just want to touch on 2 points, because like when my husband and I are talking, because they always say, oh, don't give your kid too much screen time, this or that. And we're like, but there are other kids who have been going on this, and you still kind of want your kid to integrate into the society where they understand what's going on. But at the same time, I also understand, like, there are studies where they say, like, if you have too much screen time with all these movements on the screens, their brain activity kind of gets a little bit too wacky. So then they actually cannot focus, like feeling that, like being able to focus on tasks just because of that point. So we are always kind of debating between what is screen time, no screen time. And definitely when you talk about the boredom, I think it's all of us, because when we are not doing anything, we just automatically pick up the phone. Or like turn on the TV to see what's on TV. versus like you sitting there to say, oh, I'm bored, so what now, right?
Yeah, and that's, do you know what? It's just sitting down. Another of my favourite things is just sitting in a chair and looking at my room, having, just thinking. I don't know, without the phone, and maybe having a cup of tea or something. But it's just some time of doing nothing. That's really important. And I think the screens just mean that we could fill every single waking moment with something interesting from the computer or from the phone, or but by doing that, you're not actually looking at what's right in.
Oh, I think we lost you there. There we go. Yeah, we lost you.
Did you lose me? Did you lose me?
We lost you for a little bit. It was, I think, right when you said right in front of you, like you kind of don't see what's in front of you.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. Basically, I was saying, you need to look at what's right in front of you, and being on the phone a lot sort of blanks those things out. And actually just sitting in a chair and having 5 minutes just to look at what's on your table. Even if there's nothing on your table, you go, what's the texture of my table? What does the underneath of my table look like? What are its legs like? I just think they're not things that your phone can tell you.
And I think that's one of the things about being more aware. And it's really good that I actually get to talk to you or even read your book, just because like it's that awareness that we are never brought up that way, right? Because even during my time when growing up, my parents were like, oh, you just play, but I think it's the guidance of how do you play. I think that it's the guidance that will help open up your mind to pay attention to more things instead of saying, oh, I'm bored, I'm just lying here, right? So I that's why I really enjoyed Philippa's book, and I'm super looking forward to her workbook. And I have such a great time chatting with you, Philippa.
Yes, me too.
One last question. Where can people find you?
So mostly on Instagram, although I've actually been practicing a little bit of stepping back from the social media. It's a bit of a kind of experiment at the moment, which I'm enjoying. But anyway, yes, I am basically on Instagram, and my name on Instagram, it's a bit of a strange one. It's 5 foot inf, and that's my height, 5 foot. And inf was a shortened version of infant, which had been a nickname for me when I was in Canada, actually. So it's 5 foot inf. Yeah. And I'm sort of everywhere on that. I also have my website, which is 5footinf.com. But if you Google Philippa Stanton, it will probably come, those things come up. I mean, I have a Twitter account, I have a Facebook account, but I'm not really very present on those. But yes, on my website, there's sort of everything that I do, and you can get to all the places. So that's where you can find me. Yeah,
I'll probably also put a link somewhere to share the video of you being at the TUI Centauri video. I like
one
of the videos that really caught my eye, just because I'm like, wow, it's like all the sensory things. I feel like, how people say, oh, you only use like 5% of your brain, but I'm like, this is like using a lot more percentages of your brain. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would really like to get to that point where I'm actually noticing all these things. And like, but
you will. I'm sure there are now that even that you're aware that it exists, you will start connecting to your personal inner abstract.
Yeah, and also like the actual effort of making the effort to do it, and being able to do something, like just push yourself to do a little bit more, question yourself, and like looking at what's around you. And I think that's so super important. So I have like wonderful time getting to know you, Philippa. Like it's an amazing interview we just had, and I wish you all the best with the new book that's coming out.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Yes, go check out Philippa's Instagram. Her Instagram is beautiful, and I'm sure you will love it. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. Bye.